June 16 is the Day of the African Child. And last year, just exactly a year from now, a total of 77 people who were gathered at Senator Jameson Chimba's house were arrested whilst celebrating this day on 16 June. They were denied bail. Most of them spent close to 5 months in remand prison, some at Harare remand prison and some at Chikurubi females remand prison. All this because they were supposedly enjoying their right of freedom of association and honoring this day. Now, we're going to be discussing about this day a year down the line, how it affected people, how other people's lives were changed by this day's arrest, and how they are moving on. So join me on this, the situation right now. Your host as usual, Dara B, where we ask the questions that matter. So join me after this break. Welcome back to this, the situation right now, with me, your host as usual, Dara B, and we're talking about people's rights, the Day of African Child, and where the children of this country are heading to. And to help me discuss this issue is Redim Mandizidza, who is a political activist and one of those people who were arrested together with the Senator Jameson Chimba in his house in Avondale. Welcome and thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Now let me just take you back to the 16th of June in 2024.
Yeah.
What really happened on that day?
Well, the day was just something else. And to me, it was something that I didn't even expect, that after going for a celebration, a youth celebration of African Child, I'll be deprived of my rights, I'll be deprived of my freedom and stuff for more than 50 days in prison. And so it wasn't a moment of happiness or anything of that kind.
You tell us what happened, because there are video images that we saw at that particular time.
Yeah.
People who were forced to walk on their knees while it's getting into the car. Paint that picture for me. What really happened on that day?
Well, actually, on that day, we literally didn't have the actual address that we were supposed to get from the people that were supposed to be heading the conference meeting. But then during that time, whereby you're still preparing for something to happen or maybe anything of that kind, you just hear the siren of police and you literally wonder what's going on or anything of that kind. Because after all, we had already been told that we are actually waiting for a party and we are going to be celebrating. So after that, when you literally realize that you're having police around you, you ask yourself, are they here for monitoring or anything of that kind? But then they didn't give us time to negotiate or anything of that kind. They came to the gate and we had some other citizens we had to go and meet him. There were about 6, if not mistaken. And at the juncture of them meeting the police, they are going there to inquire what they have come for or anything of that kind. But then they don't give people room for them to express how they want to know, like the information that they need to get from them. They just start harassing people, beating up and stuff. So the people that were actually inside were startled to the extent that they literally wonder what was going on. And so they, whenever there's an outbreak of violence, people have to react and maybe they stand in defense mode or anything of that kind. So people dashed out and they started to go at loggerheads with the police. So we outnumbered them, in actual fact, to the extent that they literally realized that they had no chance to stand and to express whatever that they come for. So for some instance, some of the state agents were actually articulating that they'd come to monitor, but then some of them literally told us that they had come for an arrest. So we didn't know what they had been there for in particular. So during that time, they started to open live ammunition. They threw tear gas and stuff like that. So just for the sake that maybe you weren't prepared for that, you have to make sure that you man up and maybe you stand your ground or maybe you run away. So I was part of the youth caucus that was there, and I had to go and fetch water in Jameson Timber's backyard pool. So that maybe we try by all means to light off all the tear gas that had been thrown and stuff. But they didn't end there. They had this shotguns, I'm not so sure of the particular name, that they had to open live to the innocent individual that had actually gathered at Timber's house.
Was there anyone shot?
I'm not so sure, because it's that time of scramble that you don't give room for any time of observance of anything that is going on around that area. So a lot of people did fled, but then I, as a particular individual, remained behind because I had some of the people that I'd actually came with from where I stay. And after that, I had to make sure that they are in safer hands and to make sure that at least we go home together after that. So I literally didn't know that are we still going to have some of the people that are still around or anything of that kind, or maybe. So I still had to check for them. That's how I remained behind. So we were in Senator Timber's compound, but then some other individuals did jump the perimeter wall to another residence, and so did they to the other one. So at that particular time, we were now wondering. I was thinking whether the people that I've actually come with have gone, and I still had to look for them and anything of that kind. It was a terrific moment whereby you literally don't even know what's going to happen or anything of that kind.
Yeah. So tell me, you were then arrested and you were put in cells. How did it feel for you? Was this your first time being put in cells?
Not really.
You're used to this.
No, not per se. I'm not literally used to that, but at first it wasn't something that was too serious to the extent that it was just a pregnant arrest that actually occurred. But then for this one, it was a real one to the extent that I never knew. I used to see Harare Central just passing by, but now you're going there and you are just a new visitor of the police, and now you're in custody. So my incarceration actually just came after we had got this atrocities and excruciating pain from the beatings and stuff that we actually.
You were beaten up?
So much. So it was excruciating pain, I don't want to lie. What I actually did is I skipped to the next perimeter wall during their raid. They had to come upstairs to check if there are still any individuals. But then I couldn't wait for that. So I opened the window and I did jump from the second floor down to the ground, and then I ran and I skipped the perimeter wall. So after that, I had to lie on the roof. There was a boys' sky on the next compound. And there were some other individuals that were actually there. And as part of my fellow youth that I'm supposed to be working hand in glove with, I had to tell them, guys, you have to keep silent and you have to keep low. Don't raise your heads. But at that moment, when we were still having such a conversation, the police were already at the gate, and they are now actually entering in so that maybe they try to figure out if there are people that are around there. So in the moment that they are actually entering, another person that I actually have on the roof is raising their heads up. And then that's how they discovered that we were actually hiding on top of the roof. And after that, we did jump. We had a lot of dribblings with the police, and we tried by all means to make sure that we get away. And at that moment that we were still trying to do that, I remember I had a friend that I was with, Kelvin. He was entangled in the orchard, and that's how they got him. But I did escape all that route up until I came to a stage whereby the the state agents had actually aligned themselves. Like, you literally have 4 or 5 individuals, another one trying to hit you with their helmets, another one with uh, the baton sticks, then another one is trying to hit you with the back of the gun and stuff. But I just had to tell myself to man up, and when you literally know that you are in the deepest down end. So um I had to deal with the police. After that, I ran towards the gate. I still remember that there was another police officer who was just disembarking from the truck. Because at that moment, when we outnumbered the police, they actually called for reinforcement. And they came with reinforcement, they came with district reaction group. And after that, they also brought the support unit. So we had a lot of state agents that were actually around us to the extent that we couldn't go anywhere. But it took longer for them to get me, because already they had actually traced how I had moved and stuff. So they actually thought maybe I was in charge, or maybe I was leading, or anything of that kind. So after some time of them trying to get me, I had to skip to the next compound as well. So the perimeter wall there was a hedge, this plantation. So it was of normal height, I think about 1.2 meters, if I'm not mistaken. But then I didn't calculate how wide it was. So the moment that I'm trying to skip that, I get stuck in the midst of that. But before I get stuck, I did bump into this female police officer, and it wasn't an easy thing for her to accept that, because I was really fast to do that, to the extent that she just fell down and stuff with a shield. But then after trying to skip, I got stuck. They tried to pull me, like 4 officers literally were actually trying to pull me so that maybe I get out of the hedge and stuff. I tried my best to make sure that they don't get me. So they literally realized that they are gradually losing me, and I'm actually going to the next compound. So they had to post another individual to come and encompass me, from the other side. So when he comes, he strikes me for the first time. I try to resist, and I try to fight with him and stuff.
Why were you resisting police officers?
For that moment, you're actually having a moment whereby it mustn't just be a normal arrest for me. I can't just end up, when you come home, you're actually telling people that I'm just give me 2 minutes or anything of that kind. I'm just going for a short time, and then after that I'll be back. So you literally have that running deep down in your mind, and you wanna make sure that you get back home. So in mind, I always thought that I don't have to be incarcerated. I don't have to be sued or anything of that kind. That's how I kept on resisting. But after the second strike, he missed my head. I still remember that. And he did hit me in the back. And after that, I literally realized that I had nowhere to run. And I withdrew back into the hedge, and they pulled me out. And I stood up. And to me, it almost became much more like a funny moment. That moment when you are in the deepest times of trouble, you literally realize that there's nowhere for you to run. And that type of sisu that tries to manifest is just there with you. So I just sit back, and I started laughing, and I raised my hands, and I'd be like, no, you've got me. You've got me. I understand. You've got me. And
Let's fast forward to the night you spent in Harare remand prison. Harare Central or police holding cell.
Mm-hmm.
How was it for you?
For me, it was quite comfortable, with the fact that my vicinity was actually filled with people. Like, you have not been incarcerated alone. You actually have another 40 plus individuals that you have. So I actually found comfort being incarcerated there, but I still had the pain of the atrocities that had been inflicted on me. So it was, of course, I still had the pain, but I was comfortable per se.
You then went to court and you started fighting for your liberty. You wanted bail, but this was denied to you, was it not?
It was.
How did that moment feel when you're told that you're not going home?
For some instance, when the first time that we actually got to the remand, there was another security officer who had to tell us that you don't have to have high expectations when it comes to your cases being dealt with precisely. So you just have to make sure that you expect anything. So for the first time, I expected anything. I was just giving a room for disappointments and stuff. But as it went for the second and third and fourth time, it was straining. It was a moment whereby I actually thought I'm losing much more of my investments. I'm losing much more of my connection with the outside world and stuff.
Let's talk about the experience inside Harare Remand Prison. What were your worst moments there?
My worst moments were I actually have two worst moments.
Sure.
The first one is the first 2 days that I actually got into the remand prison. The wounds after they are just taking longer for you to heal and stuff. You don't have knee guards. You don't have anything, any proper medication that you're supposed to be having. So the first worst moment was when it came to sleeping. You are in that holding cell and people are just there. You are actually pegged like sardines. You're not allowed to sleep on your own or like maybe freely, just for the sake that you don't have blankets or anything of that kind. So we're actually forced to sleep with one side for the whole night. And prison has been a place that I actually discovered that a lot of people that have gone insane or anything of that kind, they're actually bound there. So I didn't know that the next person who was actually sleeping to me is one of such kind. And he couldn't just sleep properly, to the extent that every time he's just fidgeting, he's just turning around and stuff. So with all that excruciating pain that actually accumulating, it wasn't a good moment for me. And I woke up, I felt like I had struck the whole side of me. And then the next day, you are actually given into the next night that you have to sleep again the same way that you have slept. So I actually thought to myself, no, I actually have to change my side now. But then you feel like maybe it's going to be better or anything of that kind. No, it's not. It's not. You literally get to see that the stroke is coming from the other side as well. Maybe for me it was permanent stroke, but it was just.
You're feeling numb?
Yeah.
You couldn't move your hand?
Exactly.
And the second
moment actually came after I had been moved to cell C5. So they used to keep juveniles there. I'm not so sure if they have changed or anything of that kind. So we were incarcerated together with juveniles as well. So it was prudent of senator to just allow me to go and be with them. So at times I was just there monitoring and stuff, so that maybe they are safe or anything of that kind. But there was a moment when I actually, I just myself being open to people and just interacting. I got to a point that I actually met a youngster who had been charged of murder. And they were actually being a victim of sodomization and stuff. So when he told me about it, how much some of the other older inmates had tried to molest him or anything of that kind, I took it to the heart, because after all, I had heard about that, but not in person, and I actually envisaged it. So it so happened that there was a time when someone actually wished to molest him as well. And then he reported to me again. So I took it to myself that this person is actually taking me as a senior brother to him, and I have to make sure that I man up and be responsible. So I had to tell some prison officers that were around, those that you actually realize that they have influence when it comes to management of the premises and stuff. So they had to deal with the case. But then other inmates kept on telling me that even if when you try to say something, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't. So it's just the same as not telling them or anything of that kind. But I told myself that no, even if it doesn't go anywhere, we still have to make sure that something is done. So after some time of clarity and stuff, it so happened that the same people that actually tried to molest that kid got to a point that they used to sleep, those their corner cages that those senior inmates tried to. So they did molest more of the juveniles. I think about 3 of them, and I still had a reminiscent of the other one where we used to share moments playing chess together and stuff. He was a victim of them as well. So I saw him the next day. He couldn't walk. He was just crying. He was dripping blood mixed with stew and stuff, just for the sake that they had done their work, they had done their stuff. So to me, it wasn't a moment of happiness. I was entrenched with sorrow and pain, to the extent that you literally wonder these human treatments that they're actually getting from someone who is sleeping next to you. So it wasn't the moment that was good for me. It was a worst moment, I don't want to lie, to the extent that after they went for tests and stuff, they actually realized that kid now is actually positive. So imagine just having that moment, and you literally know that it's in this same cell that I am in, that we have this one and this one and this one, that are actually working on all this stuff and dealing with some security guards that are just working clandestine deals and stuff.
So just for our viewers, for clarity, we're talking about things that happened at Harare remand prison, and eventually these 3 guys were eventually convicted. They were taken to court, following this unfortunate incident that you're talking about, where this young boy couldn't walk and was bleeding from behind.
Yes.
Blood mixed with stew, and the 3 guys were each sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Yeah.
But as you said, you raised this issue with prison guards before it got to that point, and no action was taken.
Well, the action, they had to take action way after this has actually happened. There are times when you have raised an alarm and then people are just still having mixed feelings or something. And then in that juncture that you're still having that, then you literally have that act just popping up. So even if you still wanna try to shun all that or anything of that kind, you don't have an option but just to expose the individuals. So I still remember some of the inmates. I still remember that I used to sleep with robbers and murderers. They would come with an applause, to the extent that literally we it's more than 5 years now we've been here, and these cases have just been dealt with where they stock the inmates' clothes and stuff. So that's where they just deal with the cases, and then things are just resolved and it goes back to normal.
Yeah, it's such a sad thing. Okay. But this all comes because of the issue where people are denied bail.
Mm-hmm.
When the Constitution makes this access to bail a constitutional right. Now, you were denied bail for how many days were you in remand prison?
I stayed for 80 days.
80 days.
Yeah.
During those 80 days, Did the prison manage to provide you adequate supplies for your food, for your upkeep? And did they provide you sufficient security? Because my understanding is that if you're put in prison, it is now the responsibility of the Zimbabwe prisons and correctional services to make sure that you are secure, to make sure that you attend to court, and to make sure that you are in good health. Did they manage to do that?
Well, I can partly say they did try that. What I literally realized is that the prison guards are actually of mixed multitude, whereby you have people that are actually trying by all means to make sure that they work hand in glove with you. But then you have others that are just there to just give whatever orders that they want or anything of that kind. So in terms of, maybe let me start by giving clarity of medication. I was deprived of my medical attention to the extent that they couldn't actually allow doctors to attend to us. I still remember that I had hurting limbs and stuff, so I actually needed knee guards for my joints and stuff. But the doctors actually did come with them, but then they were deprived entrance, and we literally had to naturally heal. The medication at the remand is not so proper, is not so adequate, to the extent that at the moment that I was actually feeling pain, I would ask for paracetamol. They couldn't offer that. It's not there. So one thing that I can actually pinpoint that is that I can actually give a thumbs up is our court sessions. When we went there as the Avondo 77, we actually got all the attention when it came to court sessions and stuff, and we were not deprived of our time, we were not deprived of our court sessions and stuff. It was all in order. Then when it comes to security, at first we actually thought maybe we are not so safe, to the extent that you don't know who is who amongst you, but then just having time, being comfortable and settling down in prison, and you then envisage that you're still secure, you're still there.
But were you safe when people were being molested like that? How safe is that?
It's not. When it actually came to the duty of the security guards, I can simply say they tried to do their best, but then people just behave the same. They just have a different way of behaving, to the extent that even the inmates themselves, you literally can't tell who is who, to the extent that there are some of the people that actually, there's always church there, and you go for church sessions or anything of that kind. But then there are those who don't attend that. So you literally actually have a mixed multitude. After all, there's no one in prison who was actually sued or maybe was actually imprisoned from the church. Okay, they're actually taken from whatsoever activity that they're actually partaking or anything of that kind.
Mm-hmm. So let us talk about your right to freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Section 50 of the Constitution gives you it gives you rights to freedom, rights to bail. It's a constitutional right, although it's not absolute. It is taken away only with their compelling circumstances. Do you think, in your view, that as you stayed the 80 days,
mm-hmm.
there was justification depriving you that right to bail?
No, there wasn't justification. I still remember just learning at the feet of Honorable Senator Timber, when he literally said that in Zimbabwe there's no freedom, there's no peace, because peace is not necessarily the absence of war, but the presence of justice. And it's not there, to the extent that you are mostly, of course, it's a constitutional right, but then now in Zimbabwe, it's the democratic space has been shrunken, to the extent that it depends on whose ticket are you actually standing for. And if you literally have a diverse mindset or anything of that kind, then you're deprived of your freedom. to the extent that you just have to stay incarcerated up to the time that the regime actually thinks maybe now you're actually fine.
Mm. Mm. What did you miss when you were in prison?
I missed a lot. I missed a lot. When I was in prison, I actually missed family time. That was the first thing. Just having moments, even if you quarrel, even if you do whatsoever, you go to bed um, angered or anything of that kind. But the fact that you have family and it's still there with you, it was one important thing for me. That was the first. And the second one was just my own way of expressing, just being out there and being free of no one telling you to jump, to sit down, just being commanded to sit down for a what. You don't ask how high or anything of that kind. You just have to follow the command or anything. So I missed freedom. I missed being free, just expressing myself.
I read I read a statement from Senator Timber when he said that prison doesn't only take away your freedom, it also takes away your dignity. Is that factual?
Very. It really does take away your dignity. The moment I literally didn't know that you can actually spend time when you go to the restrooms and stuff. When I believe that going to the restrooms, you actually need your own privacy and stuff. But what if of a moment that you actually just lined up and another person is there, another person is there, another person, and you're actually telling another person to just push it fast, okay? And so maybe you are 50 of yourselves just being there. And then the B classes, or the ones that have been charged. So they are just there to just flash it after all of you are done. So, just being in the middle of the line and you just get to hear all those scents and stuff. At first, it's something that you just, is it really me going through this situation and stuff? So that deprives your dignity. That's number one. Number two, I literally didn't think that the moment that you're actually having supper or anything of that kind, that the dishes can actually come with the comps, the ziguri and stuff. So it's there in your plate, and you have to make sure that you pick out all that. And so I used to remember some other person who I was.
You ate prison food?
Yeah, I did.
How did it taste?
Well, it's hard to express.
You can express it in Shona if you wish.
No, well, it's just prison. You just have to eat so that you live, not to try by all means to arouse any,
So your taste buds are dead. You are eating for survival.
Exactly. You just have to tell yourself, if you don't eat this, you're going to be dead. So you have to make sure that at least you eat something, so for you to live. But I then realized that we had other individuals. In jail, you're actually advantaged when you literally have visits from people from outside. But when you don't have that, you actually have to rely on the food that the jail is actually saving. So there's a particular moment that no one was there to provide the adequate food for those that are actually deprived, to the extent that they have this statement that they keep, like the inmates, that you need to have a bigger number in jail for you to be observed. If you don't have that bigger number, then automatically you're deprived. So imagine just spending the whole day in prison, and then you have porridge. It doesn't have sugar, and you have lunch that is just having this relish of maybe cover or rape just cut maybe 4 times with water and salt. And you have this brown looking suds, and you literally think to yourself, is it dirty? Is it what? So after that, I would see for some individuals that I actually felt compassionate. Um, so you stand in the line, and then they are trying to serve you food. And then the person that is actually serving theirs just gets a little scoop of sadza, and another one just scoops a cup full of water and maybe 2 or 3 seed beans, and then splashes into your plate. You're done for the night. Let's go. And you're having this supper maybe around 4, maybe around 5. You shall have to make sure that you strive through the night with all that little supper that you've actually had. So
And this, who's serving you as you are in prison? Are these prison guards or are fellow prisoners? Who is really serving this food?
they are fellow prisoners that have been the B classes. Yeah, those are the ones that actually serve you. They are just assigned, I think, maybe from the kitchen or anything of that kind.
Yeah. What was the most amazing moment that you had in prison, if any?
Of course, I had amazing moments. The first one was a moment of spiritual uplift. You know,
You did have church in prison.
we literally did have. And I myself, being an Adventist, I literally realized that church was more dense on Saturdays. So
So you're a Seventh Adventist.
yeah,
You worship with Kudatagwe.
of course, of course, I do. Um, so the spiritual aspect of my life was actually aroused. You know, when you're out there, you are too busy for God to the extent that you have social media scrolling, endless entertainment, mindless consumption, and all that.
Here you didn't have that.
No.
You didn't have your phone.
No.
You didn't have any entertainment.
Yeah.
I thought there's a TV there.
No, the TV is just for those mascaruras and for the sales staff and stuff.
What is a scarura?
They are inmates that are actually assigned to do the cleaning, and you know the cells are, you are supposed to be cleaning them for yourselves. So they have to clean the corridors, they have to clean the yard and stuff. Those are the scaruras. So we literally didn't have much time for TV, and after all, I was going to court in out for several days, so I literally didn't take that much into recognizance. But when it came to church, it was a moment. You know,
what if I tell you that because you were in trouble, you wanted to get out, and you prayed so much for salvation because you're in trouble and not because you're close to God?
I would beg to differ on that point, because literally I didn't pray to get out. I didn't pray for that.
You prayed to stay in?
I didn't pray to stay as well. I just prayed to be strengthened, because what I actually thought to myself is not all storms are actually coming to disrupt your way. Some of them are actually there to clear your path so that maybe you might see well. There are the delegations that you don't meet at a particular time because of how mediocre you are. So you just have to make sure that through that channel, you are introduced to them. So for me, it wasn't a moment of me praying to get out, or maybe I just prayed for strength.
Did you feel angry against those that were responsible for getting you into that? Were you angered? Did you think like, if I see them, I'd fight them?
I have to fight them. No, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. As a matter of expression, I actually took it to the heart that I'm in the struggle. Like I had clarified earlier that the democratic space has been shrunk to the extent that raising alarms of being diverse, or maybe just having a, different opinions from another, then automatically someone is just taking up out roads, sticks, shamboks, or anything of that kind to strike your back, just for the sake that you have diversity. But what actually props in mind is, if we didn't have diversity in this world, where would we be? Maybe not about the world, in Zimbabwe, maybe we would actually still having we'll be maybe having Stone Age or anything of that kind, because we wouldn't invent planes, we wouldn't have cars, just for the sake that we are using the same mindset that someone actually has. So I believe in diversity. So to me, I actually thought there is no whole point for me to be angry, because literally you have been, when you have been victorious in terms of intellectual capacity or something, then someone tries to benumb you, or maybe or anything of that kind.
Now, as we close, this happened to you because you had attended celebration of the Day of the African Child. Do you think the African child in Zimbabwe has rights, has a reason to celebrate?
Yes, I believe we do have the rights, and because we are part of the African child, and just having South Africa and the Soweto uprising, and the South Africans that are actually butchered and killed and troubled, and all that happened in 1976, it actually brought the same memories to us during that time, where we actually got all this ignominious chastisement and stuff from the state agents and stuff. The same people that actually inflicted pain in South Africa are the same people that have actually been used to inflict pain even here in Zimbabwe. So that doesn't shun away the fact that we are Africans, and for some reason we have to celebrate that, and it has to bring significance to us as Zimbabweans, to the extent that, apart from just having the apartheid government being removed from South Africa, we still have a rogue regime that is actually inflicting pain on students. I still remember someone actually complaining about the statutory fees that had been actually been stacked for university students, for different institutions that students are actually learning. So we still have the right to express ourselves, and that's one fact. And the second one, that's being Zimbabweans, we are still part of the African continent. We are still part of the African race. We still have to make sure that, deeply entrenched with ethnocentrism, it must be something that must be upheld to the extent of us expressing whatever that which we feel is important for any individual.
If you had an opportunity to sit down with President Emmerson Mnangagwa, what would you say to him?
I wouldn't say anything per se. I would actually stand up to take him through maybe series of streets and people that actually suffering, or maybe are actually deprived of different maybe I can try to say the different possibilities that they need to attain in their lives. I would make him observe how some youths have been deprived of education.
You think he doesn't know this?
I think he does, but in terms of having the in-person reality, at times, you're just there and you're actually hearing that people are suffering from this, people are suffering from... When you're not on the ground, at times you won't relate. I would take him and I would show him some of the imprisoned people that actually had to kill their grannies just for the sake that they've actually indulged in drugs, and they had to rape and murder their family members. I would make sure that he realizes how much the African child has been oppressed due to the systems and the so-called measures that have been inserted on the ground. Yeah, have been much more like. So, but overally, I would want to make him understand that we literally have youth that are actually suffering from, drug abuse has actually caused a lot of distress, and we are having people who are having mental clouding, dysphoria, dizziness, constipation, increased pressure in the biliary tract, and diseases like thrombocytopenic purpura, granulocytosis, and stuff like that. So at an early age, you're actually expecting a youth to be vibrant, to be useful in their society, in the community that they emanate from, but then they are deprived of that. And up to now, if you go into the streets, you literally realize that we have most male individuals that are actually suffering from lack of jobs, unemployment, and something of that kind.
I wanna thank you so much for joining me here on the situation right now and sharing with me some of the experiences that you went through at the Harare remand prison when you were arrested on the 16th of June in 2024 as you were commemorating and celebrating the Day of African Child at Senator Jameson Timber's house. Now, Senator Jameson Timber is viewed as a leader of the Triple C in its various formations now, owing to the power squabbles in that opposition political party. Now, some of you who are watching at home would know that I spent a total of 73 days in remand prison, where I experienced some of the shocks that Gushungo was talking about.
Yeah.
And I sit there at times and ask ourselves as a nation why we don't respect the rights that are bestowed on Zimbabweans via the Constitution. Now, the Constitution, Section 70 of the Constitution, it's very, very clear. It raises the presumptions of innocence until proven guilty. It says that you're innocent. Any person is innocent until proven guilty in a competent court of law. And this is sort of to solidify the rights that are given in Section 50 of the Constitution, which says that every person has a right to freedom. It's got, even an arrested person has a right to bail, unless there are compelling reasons to so deny them that bail. We have a system that has allowed young people who have not been convicted of any crime to stay in remand prison, and at the end of the day, as Kushungo was saying, you find them being sexually molested and sodomized whilst they are waiting for their turn to prove their innocence, if any, or to be convicted, which is a saddening experience in the history of Zimbabwe. I sit here with a heavy heart, with an intention of ensuring that the discussions that we have will touch some people, someone in the Judicial Services Commission, someone responsible for the justice delivery system, the Minister of Justice, to do something about the conditions in our prisons, to do something about the justice delivery system. If at least you deny someone bail, ensure that they get tried in a fast and expeditious way that doesn't allow someone to spend 5 years in remand prison. I know of a prisoner, Polite Sbanda, who was the yard staff. And I'm sure he's still the yard staff. He has been in remand prison for past four good years of his life, and he hasn't been convicted. He hasn't been sentenced, and you begin to wonder, a whole 4 years just to go through one trial. This is sad. This is unjust. This is unconstitutional. This will always be the situation right now with me, host as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. And here we talk about issues that affect you and why you should care. Until next time, I just want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for liking our content, subscribing and sharing, because without you, Heart and Soul TV and radio would not be what it is. Here, we believe in talking to you, in hearing you, and you hearing us. So until next time, this is the Heart and Soul of the Nation. Thank you very much for coming through today.
Thank you.
Beautiful.